All right. Hopefully we're all set up and ready to go. Sorry again for being a few minutes late. People in chat flaming me because I was fixing my hair. You got me. I was fixing my hair. I will not lie. It's true. But I'm here now. Sorry for the delay. I guess I'm only a few minutes late. No big deal. But thank you all for being here for yet another Moonshire Monday. Give it a few more moments to let people filter in. I know that there's a bit of a delay between when the stream starts and when people actually see me. I have a new screen that I can show off actually as soon as it shows up. What the heck? My YouTube chat thing is frozen again. Every single stream so far, I have complained about how my chat display is just not even working. So I'm gonna get rid of it. So in order for me to see the stream, or sorry, in order for me to see the chat, I need to actually read like the chat window above me. I used to have like the mod stream thing, but thank you all for being here. I see Napster, Min, Russell, Lava God, Bilal, Sharp, Qmerk, Wolf. Thank you so much for being here. Skelislayers, that's a good name. I spent time recently. Oh, also welcome Nightbot. I turned on Nightbot, so hopefully that might help a little bit. I turned on Nightbot because yesterday I was watching a RuneScape event, and they had Nightbot running in the YouTube chat, and I thought that it was working really well. So I went ahead and turned it on. Thank you again for being here. Karavi, Gustav, Mr. Hammer, Ethan Likes FNAF, Villager Animation, Speed Cooler, Dingle, Samwal Kabbalah. Nightbot is pretty good. Yeah, I think it is. I haven't enabled anything like noticeable on it. The chat window blanked out for you. I had to restart YouTube. I don't know. For me, whenever I use the built-in YouTube chat display, it freezes, or the browser freezes all the time. It's really weird. Hopefully my voice is loud enough. Looking at the waveforms, it's a little bit quiet. Will we see my game before winter? Yes. So, I mean, if I had to lay out a timeline for how I want things to go, let's say that the first thing is updated demo. So currently, the playable version on Steam is like 0.3.1, I think. And then right now, offline, I haven't published this version. It's running on 0.4.0. This is a transition to new map formats. So all of the maps have been changed to use completely new tile sets. And not new tile sets, it's reformatted tile sheets. A lot of them are the same tiles, but there's some new ones. But me and someone I'm working with is helping me with rethinking the layout of all these levels and recoding it in. So at the moment, the game is on 0.4.0, but it is not public, is the thing. That's the thing about that. And the goal is to publish the game so that people can play 0.5.0. So this is like what I'm working towards. I'm really, really trying to get the game in a place where I can release it and people can play it. But it's just taking so much time because I'm like redoing so much stuff. And it's you know, time consuming. One second, it is hot in my apartment. I'm gonna turn on the AC, so give me one moment while I grab that. I feel like I live in luxury because I got like a thermostat phone app. I'm able to just change the temperature whenever I want. It's funny because like a few years ago, or like when I was growing up, the house that I grew up in as a kid was very old school. Like we didn't have central air, so I like something like a phone app to control the AC. That's unheard of for me. So I feel like I'm living in luxury. Anyway, so this is the main goal, is 0.5.0. All that will be is just a playable version of the game in this new direction that I've been taking things. And I don't really know what else to say, honestly, because this is... I would like to say this will be done in like a month or two, but I've been saying that for so long. And really, I wanted 0.4.0 to be published publicly as well, but I decided to keep it personal. Really, it's that hard balance of wanting to show off your work, but not wanting to show it off when it's incomplete. which I have been. I've gotten used to it. Like, that's obviously incomplete. I've been just doing and redoing these same levels over and over again. This is obviously incomplete. And that's kind of what I wanted to work on today, is that I have the layout for a lot of these maps kind of figured out, or generally figured out, where I want to start adding back all the detail and all the plants. Because like you can see it in this map is very plain and dull, whereas this map over here has a lot more detail. It has the flowers, it has the grasses, and it goes a long way, so... Have I played Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4? Yes. Well, not 4 yet. Well, sorry, excuse me. I finished Chapter 3, and I am on Chapter 4 right now. I'm in the middle of it. One second. Someone called my phone while I was chatting. Will we see the game on NES? That would be really challenging. So probably not. Move this down a little bit. You're still having the hardest times handling screen resolution, physics, and camera. One of them has to not work. I understand. It's a big challenge getting all these things to work together and actually be successful. And that's why, like, I don't normally encourage people to make a complex game like this off the bat. Because, yeah, like you said, just having the camera alone, that introduces a lot of complexity. And if it's your first game or an early game, I don't know. It takes a lot of practice to get used to these things. Normally, I'd say like you said, resolution, physics, camera. I would say try to think of a game idea that doesn't require all three of those things, because all three of those things together, it means that your project is relatively complex. So think of a simpler idea and try and give that a shot. And then once you have the camera mastered, once you have it figured out how to get it working properly, then you can move on to the next step, which is like screen resolution or whatever. By the way, it's okay if your like early games have a fixed resolution. Of course, it's better if you can do something like my game where it's like adaptable and you can change the window size to whatever. I think that it's awesome when games are able to do this, but I wouldn't say it's like a hard requirement, especially for indie games. I think most people who play indie games are understanding that oftentimes the number of features is kind of limited. So let's go over to this map over here. So this is an example of like a finished, quote-unquote, finished map, and the one next to it before. I'm going to start adding in some details. And the details that I have are from this tile set here, terrain. Beowulf is the one who helped me with this, and I ended up making my own grass tiles because I decided to go for something more subtle. But how this works is I can highlight all of these like texture tiles, and then I can click the random button, and now it's going to choose a random one of those. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to put in a bit of terrain on top of the cliffs. So using the space efficiently is always a concern of mine, but also there's times when like I have a lot of space and I can't really fill in all the space. So in this case, like there's a big section up here where it's just like blocked off cliffs, you can't get to it. And I think that's okay. But in general, I try not to do this. I try to make the maps more like this one. I mean, this map is pretty well organized where all of the space is usable. Well, I don't know. I shouldn't say that because all of this cliff up here isn't usable. I think every room is going to have some space that's just like blocked off, and up here it's this little section. So all I'm doing right now is just adding some texture to this cliff because right now it's really blank. And all I need to do in order to fix that is just place in these tiles. I might make it look a little bit cleaner though. You're learning how to make NES games. That sounds really complex, but cool. I don't have any experience with making NES games. Adele, hi, welcome in. I don't have any experience with making NES games, but I did use FamiTracker a lot, which is like the music composition tool. And the way NES music works, I might have it installed. FamiTracker. I do. So the way the Family Tracker works, can I zoom in? It's very small, but it's this big long list of like coordinates kind of, and you're able to place in notes like this. So this is just gonna play one note. It would if I had an instrument. There's a lot of setup that's involved with this. Is this gonna play? Okay, there it goes. Here, I'll turn off the music so I can demonstrate this a little bit better. This isn't that interesting, and also, am I able to zoom this in? It is so small. How do you zoom in? I'm sorry, I don't know how to zoom this in anymore, but the way that you would make music with this tool is, like, I'm gonna play a note right here, okay? And then over here on triangle, this is gonna sound more like, I think this is gonna sound more like a bass. Yeah, so... Dang, man, doesn't that sound awesome? So I used to make songs in this. This was my first exposure to like making my own music, and the cool part about this program is that you're able to actually export this file and run it through an actual NES like hardware or emulator. So all of this music could potentially be run through like the sound chip on the NES, which makes it really, really cool. Some of the sound effects in my game come from Family Tracker. If I go to my game... Whoops, sorry about that. I clicked on the wrong thing. If I go to my game, it's really hard to hear. I probably have the sound effects turned down. It's too hard to hear. This sound. That came from Family Tracker. Literally all I did is I like made one note in Family Tracker, and I just garbled it enough to make it sound like a rolling sound. So I might actually... this is risky business doing this on stream, but I do have my folder of very old Family Tracker projects. So let's open that up. Oh, I don't. Where would it be? Oh, I found it. I found it. Oh my gosh. Oh. Oh, I don't have my old ones. I don't have my old ones, unfortunately. That's sad. I have some sound effects, apparently. Give me one moment while I open this up. No. Oh, this is the most... Why did I bother saving this? This is a file... When did I make this file? I probably made this file... I don't even know. Okay, I'm done showing this off. I thought that I used to have, like, really cool old songs that I made when I was a kid, but it looks like I don't have them anymore. But it does have the demo songs, and these are really cool. Let's play some of these. We're gonna play this one. Whoop. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how long it took to insert all of these notes into Family Tracker in order to make this song? This is unbelievable. By the way, this is not mine. I didn't make this. This is just something that that comes with Family Tracker. Dude, if I made something like that, that would be amazing. This is not mine. That's not mine. How about this one? Whoop, I keep doing this. Oh, this is from Mega Man. I recognize it. This is just crazy, isn't it? All of these are individual notes. And it's like the individual notes for the drum beats, the bass line, all of the little effects. Chalcade, what's the stream about? Very good question. I have no idea. Because right now I'm just showing off really old FamiTracker songs that come with the FamiTracker program. Would I add multiplayer to Moonshire? If yes, how? Okay, 1 second. The plan is that I do want to have multiplayer in Moonshire, but it's just not anywhere close to being there. Well, I shouldn't say that. I have the first step set up. So there's 2 steps with getting multiplayer working. There's the networking side, making sure that 2 Steam clients of this game are able to connect with each other, and oh, Discord notification. Ah, thank you for letting me know. I wonder if there's a way I can automatically... I swear, Discord used to do this thing where it would go into streamer mode. Whenever you had OBS open, it would automatically... But it hasn't been doing that for me lately. Okay, back to what I was saying is the multiplayer. There's 2 steps to making multiplayer work. It's... you have to make the Steam clients connect with each other. That's the first step. And then the second step is once they're connected and all the networking is good, then the actual gameplay needs to account for 2 clients running at the same time. So the networking side I have figured out. I managed to figure out how to get 2 Steam clients of this game connected, and I can't show it off right now. But then now the next step is all of this player code. This like player main, this needs to be reworked a little bit, because right now the game is programmed with the assumption that there's only 1 player. Like this player variable, this is a global variable. So if I wanted to have multiple players, I'd need to completely rewrite this file so that player is no longer a global variable. Instead, there is a list of multiple players in the game, and then the rest of the game just iterates through that table of players in order to figure out what to do. Like for example, in the mob mind target, like for example, if I'm attacking, if the mob is attacking, before how this was set up is that it would just always attack the player. But it can't be like that anymore. If there's multiple players, it has to be able to adapt to different scenarios, where sometimes it's attacking the player, sometimes it's attacking player 2, or maybe sometimes it's even attacking other enemies. That could be something that happens. So let's go back to... oh yeah, what I wanted to do is just add texture and all that stuff. And I'll do the same thing over on these bottom ones. What's the stream about? The stream is about whatever I want it to be. Because normally, like, I normally have some kind of task planned for what I want to do during stream. And in this case, so the plan just kind of is adding little details and texture. Oh, the other thing I want to do is go up to this map. So I've been rethinking how this map is laid out. Let me actually go to this map. So this would be this map, and then over here. Oh, I need to make it so that the rain goes away too. This shouldn't still be here. So the plan for this map is I want the well to go here. And then as soon as you walk past this way, it's going to stop you for the fight. But then over on this half, I think that I want this to be where the great axe and the lumberjack is. So I'm going to make space for that. Okay, so over here, should I make more room too? I don't think I need more room. I think I'll just try and work with this. So long story short, what I'm trying to do here is make it so that this section is sort of like a lumberjack's camp where you have chopped down trees, and this is where you're gonna get the great axe. Like the great axe is gonna be just chopped into a log, and this is where you find it. And the idea is, I want it to kind of egg people on into going down here and chopping the tree that's down in this area. But I'm kind of thinking ahead a little bit. Let's go ahead and put some of this terrain in. Maybe I should use dirt instead. I think that's okay. So, as you can see, all I'm really doing is just adding in this little texture. Oh, this shouldn't be on base. This shouldn't be on base. I'm going to move this over to the texture layer, or terrain layer, and try this again. I could have, like, salvaged it, but I chose not to. How many hours of playtime am I planning to make in total? The goal currently is at least 3, and that might not sound like very much, because I see people online saying like, oh, well, I want to make a game that has at least like 25 hours of gameplay. No, like I'm trying to be realistic, and the goal is for it to have at least 3 hours of gameplay to get through the main game. But I really do think that the game has a lot of merit where people will want to replay it, and also have challenge modes or randomizers or mods. So I think that there's going to be a lot of substance in this game. Even if, like, off the bat, I wouldn't say I'm going to be advertising, oh, this game has 30 hours of gameplay, because it definitely won't. It's just not realistic. Nightbot giving a firm, yo, you watch yourself. I love the Nightbot. Yeah, if there's, by the way, Wolf, I bet that there's a way I can add you to the Nightbot admin if you wanted to, like, use those commands or change anything. If it contains speedrunning, people will play more. I think that this game is going to be very good for speedrunning. That's not something that you should normally think ahead about during development, but I am considering it because I think one nice aspect about this game is that there's not much randomness. There is randomness, but in ways that doesn't impact gameplay. Like, there's randomness in the effects. Like, all of this rain that you're seeing, this is all randomized and crazy, random, chaotic rain. But in terms of the enemy behavior, and in terms of, like, what happens, I don't think there's going to be any randomness. I think everything's going to be deterministic. So if you play the game in a certain way, like if a robot played the game the same as another robot, to the exact... I think that the game is going to always behave the same. It's not a shader? No, the rain's not a shader. The rain is literally just particle effects that I have tweening down the screen constantly. I'm not 100% sure how Nightbot works in general. Yeah, the way Nightbot works is really easy compared to most bots. It's hosted on their own servers, and it's just actively, like, I didn't have to install anything. All I did would have to, like, sign up, and then Nightbot was in the chat now. It's really cool. But also, like, the lack of setup means that it's kind of doing its own thing. What's unique in this game? What do I think that this game is better than any other 2D RPG game? That's a good question, and a really good thing to think about while developing things. Because you're right that a lot of the things in this game are reductive and kind of rehashing old ideas in a new way. And I think that the thing that sets this game apart is the very tightly designed world. I'm spending so much time making sure that the pacing and the flow of events and the interconnectedness of this world is actually very fun to explore and go through, where all of the upgrades are meaningful, where there's a lot of decision making. And then the combat, I spent a lot of time making sure that the combat is tight, the controls are really tight, there's a very big variety of weapons. And in terms of pixel art games, there really aren't very many pixel art games, modern ones at least, that are trying to do the same sort of thing that I'm doing. There's plenty of examples, I'm sure. There's lots of games I compare this game to. But I do genuinely believe that I am making something cool here, and the way everything's coming together, I think sets it apart. But you're right, on the surface, just looking at it, you might see this as just like it's just another indie pixel art game. There's nothing much special about it. But once the demo's out and people can play it, I do genuinely think that the cleverness of the design and the tightness of the combat combined with everything else, I think it's gonna be a great experience. I really do think that. But also, since that's the case, it's taken a while. It sure is taking a while. I've been taking my sweet old time trying to get this game in a solid enough place. Because this is the other thing. Now, this demo update has been hyped up so much to the point where a lot of people are going to play it as soon as I release it, and that's a lot of pressure on me. Like, if people give the game attention, I want the game to be as good as possible. Because people played the demo when it first released, and people made YouTube videos about it, and they're really, really good videos. I can think of a... I'm sorry, I keep coughing. But I can think of a few videos. Let me try and pull one up. Where would this be? Oh, here it is. I found it. So I guess this isn't too much exposure, but this is a big YouTuber. He has 628,000 views, and he was playing my game, but like, as I'm watching this, it's very clear that something's wrong. Like, what's going on with the light here? This is kind of messed up. And like 52,000 views, that's a lot of views, but at the same time, it's not that big of a deal. But the idea is, if a lot of people are gonna be watching clips of this game, I want it to be as flattering as possible, and this footage here is just not flattering at all. Mod design to mention my game? Oh, that's cool. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. I know Good gets mentioned my game in his most recent video as well. But this video, by the way, he was so kind, and he showed very flattering footage most of the time. This was really a good video, and it showed off the game in a very good light. I don't think he needed to be this kind, if I'm being honest. And that's kind of what I mean, is that like, I think that once this demo version releases, people are going to be critical of it, and they should be. I want people to be critical of it. But since I know that people are going to be critical, that means I need to kind of prepare for that. Oh, he mentioned it in Discord. Can I start on the graveyard map? Can I start on the graveyard map? So I'm planning to have the graveyard map. Oh, whoops. Oh no, the order of things is messed up. Look, let me zoom out. Look, the waterfall's gone. What happened to it? Oh, I see. Yeah, I changed the order of these layers recently. I changed it so that this deep layer, the water, goes over top terrain, but I forgot to move this to a higher layer. I'll put this on details. That's not gonna work. I'm struggling here. Because what I need to do, I need to have some. I think that this is what I need to do. I need to put these tiles on elevation 2. If it's unclear what I'm doing, by the way, there's all these layers, like all these different layers of tiles, and the order matters. So that waterfall, where did it go? This needs to go on the correct layer, and I put it on the terrain layer to start, but it can't go there. Oh, come on. I should... Okay, so it's not going to go there. It's going to go on the elevation layer, but first I need to move... I need to move these to elevation 2 so that they sit over top of these. There we go. That's much better. So it's awkward, though, that I had to put the waterfall into the elevation layer. I guess it kind of makes sense since a waterfall is elevation. I don't think it's that big of a deal. but at the same time, like, it's a little bit weird. But anyway, now that that's fixed, I should be able to export and then reload that map. Okay, yeah, it's fixed. There's a little bit of a blue spot there. Let's fix that. I think the way that I fix this is by just doing this. It still didn't work. Oh, right, because it's over deep. Oh, no. This does make it a little bit more complex. I think they're... See, it's funny because I changed the order of these layers. All I did was I moved deep, which is like the water. I moved it from below terrain to above terrain, and now it's like screwing up everything. Because there's terrain pieces right here, but then the water's covering it up. I guess I could just delete the water from this tile. I guess that worked. I don't really watch the stream since I work when they're on, but wanted to show support. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. Cinnabread. That's a really good name. Have I ever made something using the Lua binaries? Made something using the Lua binaries? I don't think so. But like the Lua binaries are built into Love 2D. Love 2D kind of has the whole thing contained in itself. So, you know, kind of. And when I compile this game and release version 0.5, it's going to be built using the Lua compiler. Rather than just hard creating a whatever you call it, an exe. You can merge the .love file with the exe, but it makes it really exploitable. So I'm gonna try and make it a little bit more a little bit more secure from now on. I don't know what you do wrong with handling resizable resolution. Sometimes it zooms in too much, and sometimes it zooms out like crazy. Sometimes, I mean. I'm not sure what you mean because, like, in my game, the zoom doesn't really change. It stays motionless. So, like, is it the camera zoom, or is it the game's like window resolution? Because there's two things going on here. There's the window size. Like right now, the window size is very small. But look, the camera is still showing the same amount of space. It's still showing. Like you can still see the dummy over here on the left side of the window, and when I make the window big, you can still see that the dummy is on the left side of the window. It's really is shrinking and resizing everything down. So there's two components: the size of the window, and then correlating it with the camera size. What do I mean by exploitable? That's a good question. So Love 2D games, the easiest way to distribute them is to create an exe and send it to your friends, and then they run the exe. And the way you create those exes, the easiest way is to merge the .love file with the Lua exe. But when you do that, it's really easy for people to unmerge them. All I have to do is just extract the file, basically. It's super, super easy, meaning that your code can easily be decompiled. And pretty much every game is able to be decompiled at some point, but making it as difficult as possible is probably a good idea so that people can't steal your stuff. A game like, I heard recently, like Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto has never been cracked. Like, no one has ever been able to decompile that game. It truly is secure. But most games are not Grand Theft Auto. Most games are able to be decompiled, and like the code is able to be read. There's no getting around that. But as long as it has some sort of barrier, as long as there's some challenge involved with doing it, then people won't do it as often as they should, or as they currently are. Because right now, people, I get kind of annoyed because people have been like extracting the code and then porting it to other systems. I don't want people to do that because it just puts bad versions of the game out there that are not reliable and come from unreliable sources. I don't know what code they changed, and that would be a really easy way for people to like hack others if they're distributing this like weird version of my own game. Actually, GTA is decompiled. That's very impressive if it is. Octopath was made in Unreal. Yeah, that's a really good one. I love Octopath, and in terms of its visuals, I wouldn't say I love Octopath in terms of its gameplay. Okay, let me rephrase that. I like it in terms of its gameplay. I don't like the the pacing, the order of events. It feels kind of strange. Am I going to work with any publishers? No, I have no plans to do that. I'm going to be publishing it on my own and promoting it through my YouTube. That's all I really think I need to do. So back to this, I want to go to this map, and I'm going to see what I want to do. I think I'm going to make it so that... Let's go... And I'm going to make it all dirty up here, too. So what I'm trying to communicate is that, like, this little section down here was meant to be, like, a small lumber yard. There's going to be a bunch of chopped down stumps and logs and stuff. The point is that maybe, like, right here, I'll have the big wood-cutting great axe on the log, and this will be the spot where you get it. And it happens right after a fight, so it's kind of like a reward, which is nice. Yeah, in FL Studio, that's where I make my music. So the reason I want to make this kind of like the reason why the order of events is kind of like this is, it's just the order that I want to give the weapons. So if I spawn the weapons, the game is going to start by giving you the spear, and then it actually like pops it up in the menu. And then after that, the next weapon is going to be the great axe. And the point of me giving weapons like one at a time is I want like... The great axe is going to be used kind of like a lock and key. I've been talking about this with level designers too. How my game doesn't have keys and locked doors. But like Zelda games, lots of RPG games, you explore a dungeon and there's locked doors, and then you go and find keys to unlock those doors with. And my game doesn't do that. Instead, all of the locked doors are like actual obstacles. For example, these rocks up here, these are like bombable, breakable rocks, but you need to have a specific item in order to break through them. That's kind of like a lock and key. The lock is these rocks, and the key is like a bomb that's able to break through the rocks. That is a much more interesting lock and key compared to like actual locks and keys, you know. And I'm trying to make as many locks and keys as possible, and I made it so that the great axe is its own kind of lock and key. So you can brainstorm with me. What would you make this unlock? Like, my first thought was maybe like there's a tree blocking this path, and you can't get past it, and the only way to get past the tree is to chop it down with the big great axe, and then you can get past it. Or like a bunch of stumps are in the way, you need to chop down the stumps. That would be okay, and I did experiment with that. The problem is when there's a tree just like sitting in the middle of a path, it feels very off. So let me kind of demonstrate this, because I can just show this off real quick. Let's say that I wanted to make it so that a tree was blocking like this section here. I could grab one of these, and I'll put it right here, like this. And also, I'm gonna make it so that they're not fake. So the trees have this option to add this fake property that I added, and that just means that it doesn't have any physics. So let's warp here. So, like, let's say that this is the obstacles, that these trees are just blocking the path, you can't get past them. Something about it, I could not think of any way where I could make this look good and natural. This just does not look right. No matter how I organized the trees, it always felt off and very forced. So let's get rid of these. I actually don't want to do it that way. What I ended up doing, which I don't know if I can show it right now. I'm gonna have to show it differently. But the axe is still gonna chop down trees, but instead... Oh, maybe I can. Maybe I can. Give me one moment while I try to figure out how to do this, because I can't remember. I implemented this a long time ago, or not a long time ago, a few weeks ago, and I can't remember how it works. Magic Stump. There's a tree that I made called Magic Stump, And you have to give it a destination. Okay, so I think that I have to do this. I really should have prepared this a little bit better if I'm going to show it on stream. But I made a new tree type, and it's called magic. No, I'll say tree dead, and then this one is going to be left, and then I need to give it a property called destination, and then the string is called right, and then I need to do the same thing. Basically, I'm creating a portal. So there's a tree dead on this side, and then a tree dead on this side. This one is going to be destination left, and the ID on this one is right. I think that this will work, but I haven't tested it for a while. And also, it's really janky, so it's probably going to be bad anyway. Okay, so this is the dead tree. The idea is that in the game, there's going to be some dead trees scattered about, and you can't do anything with it normally. But if you have the great axe, if you have the woodcutting axe, then you'll be able to chop down this tree. And when you chop down the dead tree, it reveals a portal. And that animation looks terrible. I'm going to fix it so that the tree looks good when you chop it down. But it creates a portal. And now I can jump into the portal. And it brings me to the other tree. So, man, it is so weird, like, showing off ideas that are, like, in the process of being good. So there's a lot of things wrong with this idea. One is that, like, it just doesn't look complete. But I do like the idea of you chop down a tree and it reveals some kind of, like, secret hole that warps you to a different part of the map. And this is the idea that I'm going to be putting over here in this section, where, like, normally you're just, like, walking through the map normally. Before you get the axe, you'll see one of those trees here, but you can't chop it down yet. And eventually you'll be able to come back to it, chop it down, and it'll warp you over to this part of the map and then move you on. So that's a really kind of a zany, weird idea, but I think it's more interesting than just, like, a tree that blocks you off. And then also, I can use this in different parts of the game. Maybe I could change it from a tree stump to something different. But I like the animation I made for it. I think it looks pretty good. Learning Python basics was also stupidly short for me. I mean, yeah, the basics for most languages is pretty simple. It's just like syntax changes. But are the shadows part of the sprites themselves or generated? It's a mixture. So the shadows are sometimes baked on. So, like, if you look at the shadows really closely on this spike bramble, I'm going to zoom in. So you can see the shadows on here. These are drawn onto the sprite. These are not generated. But the player's shadow is generated. So this shadow sprite actually gets drawn separately from the player. And the reason for that is just because sometimes the player's height changes. For example, watch really closely the player's shadow when I jump into the stump here. Watch the shadow. If the player had its shadow attached to the sprite, this effect would not be possible, because you can see that the shadow gets disconnected from the player whenever he jumps. So that's the reason why the shadow does not normally get drawn directly onto the sprite, but it does get drawn onto the sprite if the sprite is really complex or if the sprite does not move. So these boulders up here, if you look really closely, these shadows are drawn onto the sprite because they're so complex and so uneven, but also because these rocks don't move. They just sit still. There's no reason for me to generate the shadow when it just stays still. Same with the stump. The stump's shadow is drawn directly on, so I could keep it nice and tight. But this shadow is not drawn on. This one is also generated. So it's a mixture. That was a really good question. It's a mixture of a whole bunch of different methods to get everything drawn in the right way. Have I considered an axe grappling hook? Now that's an interesting idea. I don't know exactly how that would work, but it sounds cool. I think I'm going to probably just stick with this idea where the axe chops down a tree, and then it reveals a portal. I think I'm gonna make it so that, like, instead of just a blank stump, I'm gonna make it like a fairy ring, so there's mushrooms around the rim, and I think that will help, signify that there's something up with this, because right now the sparkles don't really do it. The wrong version of Little Root? This is the original version. I thought you liked the original version. It's kind of like, I think that I have a mixture of original Emerald and then Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. It's the right one I'm tweaking. Yeah, there are some songs in the original game that I think sound better. Just because, like, I am really picky with instrumentation. It's the same with, I don't know if you guys played the Paper Mario 2 Thousand Year Door remake for Switch. I did not play it, but I did listen to the soundtrack. And there are a lot of songs that I love what they did with it, but there's also a lot of songs that I do not love. Even though the mix is better, it's just sometimes the instrument choices don't sit right, especially with a nostalgic song. So a nostalgic song, you feel really attached to the instruments. Like this, like all of the emerald instruments sound really funny. Like the horns, everyone talks about the trumpets in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. And that's really nostalgic for me to listen to those, but objectively, they don't sound very good. They sound like really crappy mid-eye trumpets. So that's why I like the Omega Ruby soundtrack a little bit more, because it has just better instrumentation. It's not supposed to rain in this map. I should change that. Mushrooms should be purple or pink. I'm planning to do something like that. Let me see. I might already have, actually, if I look for it, I might already have a sprite for a mushroom that I could use. Man, this map looks so bad when there's no shaders. This is a better looking one. Actually, this one is also bad because there's no texture. This one looks better when there's texture, shaders, and environment. So maybe it's under loot. Maybe it's under items, resources. I might have mentioned this on stream before, but the organization of my sprites is very bad. I would say it's very bad, so I need to fix it at some point. But every time I do that, it takes a long time to fix. Okay, so I have 2 mushrooms actually. And I did, it looks like we're on the same page. I made them purple. Although, I'll probably try to make a different sprite for this. It's okay. The problem is it's very small. All of the resources need to be small, though. Like, this is the gold. And the mushroom needs to be the same size as the gold. Yeah, look, so like it's already the same size. I can't really make the mushroom any bigger without it being awkward, so I think it's gonna have to stay like this. What if you reduced your movement speed depending on the size of your weapon? That's a really good idea, and I actually implemented that. Let me go to weapon stats, and if I go to Great Axe, look, I implemented your idea, but I took it off. Sorry. So I found that when I had the extra mass enabled, it caused some like weird inconsistencies. And right now, I don't think the game is ready for inconsistent mass or movement speed. I do think that idea has merit, and that's why I only commented it out. I'm going to keep this idea, but it needs to wait. I think right now it just kind of needs to wait. Also, it's not very fun to move slower. If I have to move slower in order to move a weapon, I'm probably just not going to use that weapon. So I'm kind of cautious on that too. Would adding shadows for specific weapons be too complex? Adding shadows for specific weapons. Are you talking about like when you swing it? Because I could see that right now when you swing a weapon, there's no shadow on the ground. Do you mean like when the weapon's on the ground? Like, the weapons do have shadows. It's generated, by the way. Because if I hit it, it bounces. So the shadow is generated on all the weapons. I wouldn't say it looks great. It looks okay, though. Oh, it looks really nice when it has a light source like this. How about the, does the torch look good? Not quite as good, because it's not red enough. I think that I need to make the light source more red. I wish I could be generated on a weapon. Dude, same. What was my approach to asset sizing? Did I iterate sizes or plan ahead? I made a game and I scaled game objects, but that is so ugly because different pixel sizes. You do have to plan ahead. So the way that I did it was I started with my character. I started with a character that was this size, and I thought, okay, so if my character is this size, then a 16 by 16 tile set makes sense. It just happens to line up pretty nicely. So I experimented and found that 16 by 16 was a really good size, especially considering that 16 by 16 is very common. It's probably the most common tile set size. So since that was the case, I just stuck with that. And I continued on from there, making stuff under that assumption. But even then, it does take a lot of experimentation to make the sprites the right size. Let me try and pull up some examples, like some of the enemies, maybe. I wouldn't say any of these are particularly good examples because I like these bosses. I like the electric girl boss, but it was something to be cautious of because she is very big. Like, there's no getting around that. And whenever I was designing these bosses, or because these sprites were made by Pixels, by the way. When I was working with him on these sprites, though, we were cautious about how big the player was compared to any enemy we were working on. So if I have like the player here, I have the player here, and then I put it next to this, it's like sometimes you see this and it's like, do I want this big of a size discrepancy? And in this case, yes, I think that it works really well having this big boss because she's a very simple shape. And, you know, it's intimidating having a big boss, but it's not feasible to have every enemy that big, and most of the bosses are much smaller. In fact, I think this one is smaller, but it's still pretty big, actually, now that I'm looking at it. This one was made by Ellie Sprites, by the way. Am I planning to add any enemies with special abilities? I would say that there's already plenty of those. But enemy AI and behavior is such a tricky topic that I've been working and reworking on for so much time. It's crazy. LA sprites, yeah, exactly. Could we get RGB mushrooms? RGB mushrooms. RGB mushrooms. I don't know what you mean by that. But is she 64 for 564? In this case, yes. But I wouldn't say that well, yeah, I guess that Tony did a pretty good job of keeping her within a 64 by 64 frame. So yeah, in this case, she is stuck within a 64 by 64 bounds, but if you look closely, like, her physical shape has some space. So even though her canvas frame size is 64 by 64, the sphere itself is 54 by 54. So this is kind of like extra clarity that even if you're using some kind of like standardized size, your characters aren't gonna match one-to-one. And it's the same with like my player character. Look at my player character. The frame size for the player is 24 by 24. This is not really a standard size, but I thought that it fit pretty well, and I just decided to go with it. So in terms of like what you're deciding to do for sizes, it doesn't really matter too much as long as it works for your setup. Also, I'm gonna skip ahead because that song is a little bit annoying when it repeats that long. How do I display this tile met squares in Sprite? If you go to View, Grid Settings, you're able to show the blue lines. How do people get the Steam achievement, though? It's not achievable right now. It is a locked and deprecated achievement, but because 9% of people got it. They got it when the demo came out, but then I changed how jewelry works. Yeah, so when the demo came out, jewelry was set up where you would find gems throughout the environment, and you would also find jewelry throughout the environment. But neither of those things are useful on their own. You need to have one of each. And then you could combine them to create jewelry with abilities. And that's cool, but it didn't work out very well. So I decided to scrap that idea. And since I scrapped the idea, that means that the achievement that went along with it wasn't achievable anymore because you just couldn't do it anymore. It wasn't a thing. Oh my gosh, my eyes like bloodshot? Maybe I'm tired. Is it custom? Can you please explain to me how you made the pieces of the box fly after breaking in the bird game? I guess you're probably thinking of something like this, where the pieces fly off like that. And that is a really cool feature, if I'm being honest. If I go over here, spawn some more of these. Let's spawn a box. And I'm gonna spawn another box. Take a shot every time I ask what game engine. I know, I mean, there's only so much you can do. I could try to put something like on screen to help clarify that for people, but I mean, it's okay. So someone was asking about like the flying particles. I think that's what you're talking about. How when you like hit this box. Oh, I mean, it's weird that it's kind of like sitting on the water, but some of them, I'd be drunk 10 minutes into the stream. I mean, yeah, pretty much. Does the telescope work? It's part of like a cutscene. But the way these, that like particle system works, there's two pieces. There's the pieces that fly off, and then there's the pieces that fall on the ground. So it's like a combination. In fact, I think I can turn on collisions and show that. Maybe. Oh, maybe not, because this is a different particle world. Yeah, it's a different particle world. You can see those physics, though. And then once it stops, the physics deletes itself. That's pretty clever. Wood does float in real life. Yeah, I suppose so, but if something... I think that this is just messed up. See, actually, I do know what the problem is. I changed it recently where I put some effort into this map, where there's now triangles for the water. I used to only have rectangles, but now the water can be triangular. And I haven't implemented it so that it's actually able to register a triangle space. Looking at my God menu is giving me ideas for my God menu. Yo, I believe in the God menu. It is so nice. Yeah, I use the God menu constantly. And it's fun to like adjust some of these silly values like the player speed. He's so fast. Or I can make the whole game speed faster. Wow. I remember there was the point where I allowed people to change some of the settings in a really crazy way. I think it would be fun if there was like a speed run where people can't play the test build. Oh, I mean, I believe it. I posted a new version. So it probably is crashing. Are you trying to load an old file? Because it definitely wouldn't work. The problem is that I changed all of the maps. That's why the version number jumped up to 0.4. I made it so that all of the old maps are gone. All of them are these new format ones using the new tile set. And everything that was there before is out of the way. But specifically, it's not out of the way. I made it so that you can mod and go to custom maps. So here, I'm going to try and show this real quick, because this is kind of relevant for Wolf. So I made a new setup where in the save data, this is the save data folder, you're able to add a new folder called Worlds. And Worlds is going to contain all of the custom maps. So once mod support is there, they're going to go into this Worlds folder. And then right now, since I'm working with level designers, we're testing things out in this Worlds folder. going into the worlds folder, we will see a list of all of the worlds that I added to my worlds folder. And in the game, when let's go back to normal. In the game, when I go into this menu, there's a new option here called World, and it shows a list of all of the worlds available. Moonshire is the default world. This is like the default regular maps that are part of the game. And it's going to list out all of the other folders that you have in worlds. If I added another folder in here called test, I think that if I close this and open it back up again, yeah, look, it added it. So it's actually reading all of the different folders that I have available in the worlds folder. So then the idea is I'm able to put custom maps into these worlds. So like I have a world called custom. In the custom world, I have a maps and tiles folder. These are all the tiles associated with it. And then maps, these are some custom maps. So what it allows me to do is, let's say I'm playing on the regular default Moonshire world. I could instead, like, let's say I'm level designing and I come up with a new version of this map right here. I came up with a new version of this map and I want to test it out. Instead of me having to make a whole new build, all you have to do is add that map into one of these worlds. And then you're able to test it out. And I can do that in game too once it's in there. If I click on world and then custom, it switches over the endpoint. So now it's no longer loading levels from inside of the game. It's loading levels from this custom folder. It's going to be using these maps and these tiles from now on until I switch back to Moonshire, and now it's back on the default game built-in maps. But if I wanted to test out the custom one, I would click on custom, and then if I warp to let's say this map, it crashes. It crashes. So let's fix this. Plant 196. So let's fix this real quick. Plant 196. I think it's because I got rid of wind factor. Why did I get rid of wind factor? Load map. Spaghetti bolognese or lasagna. I'd say lasagna. So wind factor. It starts off correct. What? Maybe there's something wrong with my custom map. That doesn't make sense. Why would there be something wrong with my custom map? And also my demo of the custom map didn't work out very well because it just broke. So this is the custom version. We know it's custom because it's brown. I need to get rid of these things, I think. I think that these are old values that can't exist anymore. So I'm going to export that, and I'm going to do the same thing with this one. These are old values that shouldn't exist here anymore. So I'm going to save this. Unity, I see? Nope. I also have a cool concept. It's kind of like Grayson. Oh, I see. C is my goat. C is love. C is life. I like C, but I like modern languages a little bit more. Do I plan on having Easter eggs in my game? Definitely yes, but I'm certain I'm not going to have any until the game is farther along in development. Just because that's a minor detail, and my sense of humor changes. Show toast when you change the world. Well, the reason why I'm not putting any effort into stuff like that is because this is just for debugging purposes, and this is only going to be used by me and some of the level designers. I don't think that this needs to be fleshed out any more than it currently is, as long as it's functional. Oh no, that still didn't work. So here's the problem. The problem is that GameMap.WindFactor This is how strong the wind is. If you'll notice when I start the game again, all of the plants, like on the ground and the sunflower, it's swaying in the wind. It is swaying in the wind. But I could change it so that the wind factor is 1.18, and then I think it's going to be like really strong. Yeah, look. It gets super messed up when you make the wind factor super high. So something's going wrong where somewhere the wind factor is being set to nil. Somewhere the wind factor is being set to nil, and it's crashing the game. So let's find all the places where wind factor changes. Apparently that's it. Why does it crash? It shouldn't crash. I guess I could just make it so that... How about local wind factor equals 1 if game map dot wind factor. There we go. And then I'll multiply this by wind factor. So rather than just blindly multiplying by game map dot wind factor, apparently it can be nil at some points. I didn't think it could, but apparently it can. So we're gonna try this. Okay. We're gonna change to world custom and then warp to here. Okay, it worked. It worked. Although, actually, where are all the... Oh, there's no plants on this map. Okay, so it did work. But so this is the whole idea. Is now it's really easy for me to load in test maps, because all I have to do now is put the map into this tiles folder and then switch worlds using this UI. And then if I want to go back to the regular one, I can just warp back, and now I'm back. I think this is going to be kind of helpful. And this is the foundation for mod support. When people want to make custom maps, it's going to work similar to this, where they download tile, they get their own maps, or they get their own tile sets, and then they load it all into this worlds folder. And you can make as many worlds as you want. I could make if you want to make like a fan game, like a Mario world, you can make a Mario, make a folder, and I'll call it Mario, and then this is the Mario world, and then all the maps in here can be Mario themed. But that's the idea, is that people can post their own mods, and then when you download the mods, it'll put that world into this folder, and then there can be like a system that switches you between those worlds whenever you want to play them. So yeah, at the moment it's more of like a testing setup. It's here to help with getting things in the engine and tested to make sure they work, but it is also going to be the foundation for mods whenever that comes around. You'll have new sprites, thank you. That the pieces are the broken object itself, which will thrown around, or just a series of pieces were made to be... I think that you... Are you talking about how, like, the boxes, when you break them, there's the pieces on the ground, and these actually have, like, physics and stuff. But then there's also pieces that fly off screen, and those do not. Those do not. Nintendo lawsuit incoming. Hopefully not. Well, no, actually, there definitely won't be. So, I'm pretty aware of all like the Nintendo lawsuits that go on, and it's very consistent. Nintendo sues when you use their intellectual property. I do not do that. At the very most, I gain inspiration from their ideas and their other games, because they have a lot of really good games. But like, they sued Palworld because there was... Well, I don't know if I should even speak on that, because I don't know all the details. They'll sue you for stealing Mario's red color. No! Well, they'll you know what, we're getting into some dicey conversations. I need to be careful. All that I mean is that as long as I'm not stealing any ideas or stealing any IP, that's the whole thing. I think the Palworld lawsuit came down to IP stuff. There was also the copyright thing about the like throwing mechanics, so that's why that's a bit more muddy. I guess I don't really know for sure. The character sprite is so amazing, and the environment is so much detailed. The menus, yeah, the menu and font. Oh, I'm totally with you. I want to change the font so that the font is a pixel font. It used to be a pixel font, but then I changed it to be a high-res font because it's more readable, but now it clashes too much with the style. I think that a pixel font will look better. I think that the border and like the sprites and all this are fine. I'm with you. They could be better. But in terms of a menu, it is hard to make a pixel art menu that looks... I think it's pretty challenging. We need to work on Nightbot before next stream. Oh, okay, sure, we'll do that. If you can you remind me for us to do that? Because I'll definitely forget. The Power World lawsuit is very gray. If Nintendo wins, it'll be bad. That's kind of what I mean. It's like, there are parts of it that do seem not gray, but there are other parts that seem very gray. And it's kind of hard to understand. I made a demo game named Places End on Itch, got 4 stars. Cool, awesome. Yeah, that's a good habit, is to post your games on Itch and stuff. So one thing about the rubble is that I need to make new rubble like objects and types, because look, when I break this telescope, it's currently just wood, and it's not going to be wood. I want to make some like metal pieces, maybe some glass for the lens. So let's go back to working on that. Oh, whoops! Did I change worlds? I did. Let's go back to working on this town area. With the worlds, you can make it like the Stardew Valley farm types on the create menu. Could, yes. It's more like the world menu. It's more like this is a list of mods, or this is a list of custom levels that people have made. I don't think that the worlds menu is going to be used for more than just testing and for mods. I think that's going to be not really useful outside of that, because if something is going to be contained within the game, then I actually don't need to use that worlds folder. I can just put it directly into the regular code, and it'll work good from there. That would be a better spot for it. So this is going to be better for like user interacted content. When there's finally mod support, yeah. Cat Helger, that's a good font. That's a confusing title. You're gonna add pets. I don't think I'm gonna add pets, but I think that there's gonna be some characters that like follow you around and stuff. At the most, I think I would do like, there's a dog in town that you could pet, and then the dog follows you around. I think that would be fun. Thought about making glasses and eyewear for legally blind friends. Yeah, I mean, that's a good idea. As you can see, I am one of them. Well, I shouldn't say that. So my eyesight is actually pretty decent. If I didn't wear glasses, I could make it through the day. It would be no big deal. But when I'm reading, like right now when I'm reading my screen, it is tough. It is blurry. Like this distance between me and my screen, this is the exact distance that I can't read without glasses. So I really do need glasses for that reason. But like if I left the house and I had to like go grocery shopping or something without glasses, I wouldn't even notice really. I only notice when I need to read stuff, and where I need to look at a screen and stuff. Banto, hi, welcome in. You should make a boss that clones you and fights as you. Oh, I love that. Like the Mimic tier. That's a really cool idea. Talk about game state. How am I storing it? Well, so game state, it's just a combination of a whole bunch of different variables. So like, I think in my game start, I think that I have some globals. Yeah, so I have a variable called game state, and this is literally just an integer. When the integer is 0, it means you're at the main menu, and when the integer is 1, it's regular gameplay, and then game state 3 is game over. So there's a few different like overall game states that the game checks for, and all it is checking this variable to see what its value is. And I'd say that's the same for all of the game states. People ask about like game states and how I organize that, but I always organize it the same way, where it's just a bunch of variables with a bunch of values. that indicate like where you're at and what's going on. 3 and 5 are so confusing when it's blurry. 3 and 5. I don't quite remember what I was talking about. I have a game. The name is The Legend of Butter. I do love butter. I would be cautious about using the phrase "the legend of." He isn't using an enumerator. Well, Lua doesn't have enumerators, so it would, if I made an enumerator, it would be this is what it would look like. Okay. I would call it game state equals this, and then yeah, like this. And then gameplay equals 1, pre-dungeon, and game over. So then, instead of just setting game state to different values, you would instead say game state dot main menu. And then there would need to be another variable called actual state equals game state dot main menu. And then when you want to change states, I could make a function change state, change game state, new state. And then I'm sure Copilot will write this for me. It did. And yeah, this is a perfectly valid way to do it using an enumerator. I think that would be better. I think that the way you described it is better. This is better. But I think that also how simple my states are, because there's only a few of them. In fact, pre-dungeon isn't a thing anymore, and game over isn't a thing anymore. So really, all I'm doing is checking if it's 0 or 1. And even that's not necessary anymore because the menus integrate with the gameplay. Like, if I look at the pause menu, like I'm playing the game right now, when I open up the menu, it doesn't change the game state at all. It's still in game state 1. It's just also the pause menu is open. So now the game is also tracking, in addition to the game state, it's also tracking the pause state, because the pause also has its own state. Yeah, pause.state. And look, this is also going to make you mad. This one has 20 different states it can be in. Yeah, Nightbot is going a bit crazy. The Kingdom Hearts background is such a vibe. Oh, I know. I love this. I love this track specifically. This is from the final mix. Version is so much better than the original. If you can, go back and listen to what's the name of this song? Lazy Afternoons. So there's the Kingdom Hearts 2 original mix for Lazy Afternoons. And then there's the final mix version for Lazy Afternoons, which is what we're listening to right now. And this version sounds like 100 times better. And Nightbot is on a purge. I know. I like something needs to chill out. Here, I could probably do that right now. I have the dashboard open. How about chat moderation? Look, let's change this right now. Is there anything I could change? Excess emotes, so that's fine. People can spam emotes if they want. Repetitions is disabled. I'm surprised this is... Excess caps? Caps are fine. Capital letters is okay. I will not ban caps. Excess symbols. What symbols are people spamming? Are there symbols that people can spam? I'm just going to disable this. Links make sense, and black with words make sense. So... can you show what your Steam SDK stuff looks like for achievements? Yeah, that is really hard. How did I set that up? So the way I'm doing it right now is... Let me try and find it. There is this DLL and SO file, these two right here, for this program called Lua Steam. Lua Steam. One word. Let me try and find the GitHub page for it. So there's this GitHub for Lua Steam. Oh, come on, I'm not signed in. And what this is a package. It's a library that you can connect with your... Oh, did he put my name in here? He didn't! Oh, come on! That's so sad. I talked to the guy. I actually talked to the guy, and he asked me what game. Oh, that's sad. So when I first started using Lua Steam, it was before Balatro came out, so no one was using it yet. And I actually had to talk to one of the developers to get them to add a feature to it. And when I was telling them about my game, they said that they were going to add my game to this list, but they didn't do it. Oh, so sad. They added Balatro, though. I thought that my game was going to be the first big game on this list. That's okay. Let us know here, and we can add to the list, too. I'm too proud to do it. I'm not going to do it. Does the main character have a name, species, or anything? I mean, unofficially, we've been calling the character Lua. We've been calling him Lua. And then that's the official name. There's no race or anything. The idea is that it's like a self-insert, like you yourself is under the hood. I like characters like this that are ambiguous, just because it allows me to like project myself on the player. Maybe when you finish it, they will add it. I mean, maybe that's a good point. My game is still in development. And also, I only talked to the guy once. It wasn't that big of a deal. I'm being dramatic just to be funny. I don't actually care that it's not on this list. But this program is really good. The software here is awesome. So what it is once it's compiled, it creates this file called luasteam.dll and luasteam.so. That's just the Mac version. And you're able to connect to it and call specific Steam commands that they have supported. So let's see which ones they have. I don't know if I can play this song. I love this song, but I've been getting copyrighted for Final Fantasy music, so I'm gonna have to skip ahead. Thanks for answering your question. Sure, yeah. But long story short is this is a really, really good set of options, because I actually use this iSteam utils and user, like getting the friends list and the Steam ID. I'm pretty sure that I have I made a steam.lua file. So I wrote this file. I'm really proud of it. It's super clean. I did such a good job with this file. But I wrote it like a year ago, so I don't even remember it. But it utilizes that Lua Steam right here. Require Lua Steam. And then it calls all those functions specifically from it, like user stats or networking working sockets. I think that this is where the achievements are. Achieve, yeah. Steam unlock achievements. And it actually calls this luasteam.set user, or sorry, luasteam user stats dot set achievement, and you can pass the idea of the achievement that's being unlocked. And then somewhere else in the game, I actually call this function, probably in a deprecated file. Yeah, it looks like I actually removed. Oh, yeah, I already removed the call. Could you use Lua Steam to help with cloud saving too? I'm not sure. Let me see. I would guess not, but maybe. So after this is done searching, I'm gonna search the Steam SDK to see if it has support for that. I bet that it does. I bet that it does. So the thing about Lua Steam is that they actually have to go through every supported function that the Steam SDK supports and specifically write a Lua compatible C++ function. It would be a huge pain. The people who make this Lua Steam stuff is really smart and really good. Where is the... certainly they have a link to... Yeah, here it is. So there's all kinds of crazy things you can do with this. I bet cloud saves are somewhere on here. Save? I don't know. But the way that you would find out how to do cloud saves is you would find the SDK stuff. Oh, this is the one. Here it is. I found it. Oh, you're gonna be so happy. What you're looking for is iSteam Remote Storage. This is the interface you're looking for. Now, your earlier question, can you use this with Lua Steam? The only way to know is if it's over here, and it is not. They do not support that interface at all. So if you wanted to use this iSteam Remote Storage feature, if you wanted to use this in Love2D or Lua at all, you would need to have a new version of Lua Steam that specifically supports iSteam Remote Storage. And right now it does not. And the problem that I'm describing is very similar to the problem that I had when I had to reach out to these developers a year ago. In fact, I can probably find the commit because they don't update it very often. I think it was this. Yeah, here it is. It was this one. iSteam User API. So, at the time, when he implemented this, they did not support this iSteam user interface. It was not supported in Lua Steam. So I had to specifically reach out to them and ask them, hey, could you implement the iSteam user interface into Lua Steam, create a new version, and then I grabbed that version, and then I was able to use these functions. And I needed that iSteam user thing, iSteam user, because this is how you get like your friends list or specific details about the user that's playing. So hopefully that answered your question. It should, because this is exactly the thing that you're looking for. Is there documentation that's helpful for resolution rescaling math in Love2D? I mean, there's not really any math involved. So resolution rescaling math, I don't really know what you mean. So which part are you struggling with? Are you struggling with the camera, or are you struggling with the game window? So there's two problems that I'm not sure, because you've asked this question like 20 times now. Is your problem with scaling and rescaling and resolution? Is it a problem when you squish the window like this and that's what you're complaining about? Or is it just a problem that your game is too zoomed in? Like let's say that my game was zoomed out like this, and you're like, okay, this is too zoomed out. How can I make my game zoomed in and make it still look clean? Because those are two separate issues. And if you're trying to solve both of those issues at once, you're gonna just you need to take a step back and take it one step at a time. Are you trying to make it so the game camera is zoomed in, or are you trying to make it so the game window resizes and changes? Because if you're worried about the game window, I would say don't worry about that right now. Focus on the camera and making it so that you have a camera in your game that is the correct like zoom level, and there is no math involved at all with that. I have a camera, and all it does is it has a zoom to function. I just called the zoom to function and I set it to a new scale. That's it. There's no real complexity. There's no math to it. I just created a camera. I have it set to a specific zoom level, and everything gets drawn through the camera. And I'm with you, though, that coordinating that camera with resizing the window, that is challenging. That is challenging, but take a step back and do it one step at a time. I think that you're going to struggle a lot if you keep, like... Because all your questions have been, you're struggling with resizing and scaling and resolution and windows and camera, it's like you're listing off all kinds of crazy stuff. Camera's too close to the character. Yeah, that's the thing, is that in my game, you can change it. You can change the zoom level to whatever you want. By default, it's going to be like this, but if people think this is too close or too far, then it's really easy to set it to something different. So like in your game, if the camera was too close to the character, the way that you change it is changing this zoom to. So right now, like let's say that you had your zoom to set to 3, you would change it to 1, and that would make it zoom out. Or you could set it to 10 and then zooms in. It literally is just you're changing the zoom level. You're changing the amount that's being zoomed. So yeah, I know that there's a lot of steps to it. Closer cam helps you appreciate the details. You'll notice that in all my videos where I like record footage of the game, the camera is pretty zoomed in. It like when the game is zoomed out, like when it's zoomed out like this, it's nice being able to see everything, but it also kind of makes everything feel a little empty because it's so wide and so far out that it kind of loses something like that. Will it make a game trailer? Yeah. And there's a game trailer on Steam, and I made that one myself. But I want to do a better job with the next one. Yeah, when the game's zoomed in like this, actually on all my videos I have it set to 5, so it's really zoomed in. But when it's zoomed in like this, especially like for a YouTube video, because people watch YouTube videos on their phone, and when you're watching videos on a phone, things are very small, and if the game is not zoomed in, it is really hard to get a grasp of all the details. The game looks super good zoomed out too. Thank you. I think it looks good in both, but I think that in general, I'm going to want people to stick to more around this level because it's a good combination of being able to see everything that you need to, while also still being zoomed in enough to appreciate the details. Since the current trailer shows a bunch of stuff that isn't in the game anymore. Yeah, like throwing weapons and the jellyfish that you can shoot stuff with. The total darkness. I'm sure that there's more than that too. I have the other problem. The camera zoom is okay, but the rescaling don't work. It just cuts out when resizing the window. So it cuts out when resizing the window. So what's triggering that? In my game, when the window gets resized, nothing would happen unless I specifically code it to do something. And I think that's in my main resize. Yeah, look. I had to specifically code this on love.resize. It does something. So in your code, is there somewhere that's calling something on love.resize or whatever engine you're using on resize of the window? Because if on resize it's changing the scale factor, I could see that causing issues. In my game, resizing the window, I don't think... maybe it does. Maybe it does scale, because this set scale function does get called when you resize the window too. And all it does is read the current window height. So it gets rescaled on the fly. Right, uses zoom to as well. I'm just not sure how the scaling math works, like the scale variable. The higher the number, the more zoomed in it will be. The lower the number, the less zoomed in it will be. So if you want to zoom out, make the number smaller. And if you want it to zoom in, make the number bigger. And the math is just an equation that results in a higher or a lower number. So if I was doing like cam colon zoom 2, and I had this like formula like player dot scale times 14, it's like it doesn't matter what player dot scale is. No matter what, 14 is going to be the multiplier. So like setting it to player dot scale times 2, that is always going to be smaller than player dot scale times 5, which is always going to be smaller than player dot scale times 500, or you know, like that. So whatever the format is, and like if this is player dot scale times like game map dot width or something like that, so like there's some formula involved. All you need to think about is, does the result have a bigger number under certain conditions, or does it have a smaller number under certain conditions? If you're worried about your map being too zoomed out, then try to adjust that formula so that the final number that gets calculated is smaller. You could multiply the entire thing by 0.5, and that would reduce everything by half. I've never seen love.resize in my life. Cool. Yeah, it's a cool one. I actually don't think that I'm using this one specifically. I must be using something else. But love.resize is going to print something whenever the size of the window changes. And I can demonstrate this. Whoops, I accidentally crashed the game. Game start 138. Oh yeah, because I must have saved the file. Whoops. Oh, whoops. No, I did all of it. I forgot that I added all this code. I don't actually want any of this stuff. I added that just for the demonstration. So here's my game. I have my print menu, and then when I resize the window, it says setting size. It says it twice though. I don't know why. Why would it set it twice? I'm not quite sure why it calls that function 2 times. It really shouldn't. Also, you can see that it's calling init fonts, because when the scale of the game changes, the fonts need to be recalculated and reloaded into memory, because the fonts get loaded under the certain scale conditions, but if the scale changes, they need to be reloaded under the new scale conditions. It's pretty simple, I think. Because it changes the height and width. In my game, the width of the window doesn't change the scale. So like, watch this. Oh, I crashed the game? How? I crashed the game. Oops. Let's try that again. I actually don't know how I did that. So what I'm demonstrating is that the height of the game window doesn't impact the scale. So look closely at the telescope. How the telescope is at the very tip top of the screen. But if I make the window really narrow, the telescope is still at the very tip top of the screen. The width of this game window, it doesn't change the scale at all. It literally just adds more content to the left and to the right. But if I squish it down vertically, watch the telescope. It stays in the same spot. The vertical viewpoint doesn't change when you alter the vertical size. It's only the horizontal size that changes, or sorry, it's only the vertical size that zooms in and out. The horizontal size does not change anything. Look at that. So if I like squeeze it down like this, it's super zoomed out, but this keeps zooming it out and out and out like that. Have I played Deltarune? Yeah. I just finished chapter 3 and I'm on chapter 4 right now. One too many love.resize calls. Well, so the funny thing about that is this function, it's called an overloaded function, meaning that love.resize, this function exists as part of love by default. So when you're using love 2D, all of these functions, love.quit, love.gamepad access, all of these functions, these exist in love 2D by default. But what we're doing in this file is we're overloading it, which means that we are asking it to do something unique. It's love.resize exists in love 2D, and in love 2D it gets called whenever the window gets resized. I don't think anywhere in code do I call this. Nope. So this function doesn't get called by me anywhere. It gets called by love2d, the engine, whenever the window size changes. And the whole point of this is that I'm changing the definition to do custom stuff. Same here. Love.quit is an overloaded function. This gets called by love2d whenever you close the game window. And all I'm saying here is I want some unique stuff to happen when love.quit happens. And the unique stuff is this line here. all it's doing is it's calling this shutdown function on Lua Steam. And that's how all of these functions here work. Love.load, I don't call love.load anywhere in my code. This is called by love2d in the engine itself. All I'm doing is I'm overloading the function to do a bunch of custom things when this function is called. So that's why I'm finding it strange that love.resize is being called multiple times when I resize this window, because like I would have expected it only to call once, and because I'm not calling it anywhere else. Never mind, I am actually, because love.resize, I just saw this. I think that what's happening is maybe this is calling it somewhere. I don't think it is. I think that it really is just calling my love.resize multiple times. Yeah, it's kind of strange. Can I do a short gameplay overview? I could try. So the thing is, right now, the game is in a bit of a, what do I say? Incomplete state, where I have been ripping out all of the content and fixing it and then putting it back in. So right now, the game is starting to look a little bit better because I made this map look nice, finally. But, like, the enemies aren't quite up to snuff, and I don't really have the order of events set up properly, but I can spawn a weapon. So the whole idea of this game is that you're exploring this interconnected world. It's set up like a grid, and you find new weapons, you find new upgrades that allow you to get past certain obstacles. Like I was showing earlier how you can chop down these trees to unlock a portal, or you can use a bomb to explode these boulders to get past it. So it's kind of like a Zelda-inspired game, but then the combat is a lot faster paced because you have like the dodge roll, and you have a whole big variety of weapons to choose from. I think that it's going to be a lot of fun to play. Ow. I have a rotation of my character, and it's giving this rotation to my weapon holder. However, my weapon is sometimes offset to where the aiming point... Oh, I feel ya. So the only way to do that is you have to offset the rotation as well. So rather than having like an off X and off Y, you would need to have an off X, off Y in relative rotation to like a vector. Let me try and draw this, I guess, because what you're describing is something that I have done in this game. It's like, if this is my... Let's find a better brush. If this is my character... Okay, and then the weapon, let's say he's holding, I don't know, like a torch. He's holding a torch right here. And then here's the flame. Okay, so he's holding the torch. Now, the problem... Yeah, I'm doing a pirate software. What this person is describing is that in order for the torch to be located right here, there's an offset from the player's position. If this is the player's position, the torch needs to be offset to the left a little bit, like this, and up a little bit like this, in order for this torch to be located right here. Now the problem that the person in the chat was describing is that their character rotated. So the character falls over or is rotated kind of like this. Okay. Now the player's position is still right here, but look, if we applied this this offset, if we applied this over here, it would go over and then up like that, and then the torch would be here again. It would be right here. And the torch doesn't need to be right here. It needs to be over here. So this right angle, it needs to be rotated with the player. It needs to be rotated with the player. So instead of like an offset like this, let's the the way I do it in my game is I have a vector. So like this is the player's upright vector. This is the rotation vector. And the offset of the torch is relative to this rotation vector, the left and up. But if the rotation vector got rotated on its side like this, look, this L shape right here, it would look more like this. It would still be an L shape, but it would be rotated as well. And that's what you need to do with your offset variables. Is right now you have this L shape to get the position, but you're not doing this rotation. And there's some math involved with this. The way I do it is I actually utilize a vector library to calculate the offset based off the rotation of the vector. I find that to be the easiest way. But there is also, like, you can use trigonometry or you can use some rotation math in order to calculate what would this translation look like if the entire translation was rotated by, I don't know, 80 degrees, whatever this is. This drawing's so goofy. Yeah, I know. How do I make big projects and never feel burnt out? I mean, the nice part about game development is that it's a multidisciplinary thing. Where if I get burnt out on coding, I can go work on level design. And if I get burnt out on level design, I can go work on pixel art. And there's lots of things I can swap between. So I got burnt out a little bit recently on working on the enemy behavior, because working on enemy behavior is really intense. It takes a lot of thought and planning to get it working. What's Pirate Software? He's just another streamer. He's another streamer that does paint drawings like this. Focus on one step at a time. Yeah, exactly. It's easy to get burnt out and overwhelmed when you're trying to do everything at once. That's kind of like I was talking about with the other person earlier who was saying, I'm having trouble with the resolution, the scaling, the window, the camera. It's like, dude, I'm overwhelmed just listening to that. I would be overwhelmed as well. You have to break things down into little pieces. Otherwise, it's going to be overwhelming and you're going to burn yourself out. And that's why I always say you need to make an easy game to start, because a big game like mine, this has a lot of moving pieces to it in order to get this working end to end. Compared to Pong or Space Invaders, those games have much fewer moving pieces. But even like Space Invaders has plenty of moving pieces, it's not easy to get a game like that working. How I do my music in SFX sounds. So I make my music in FL Studio, and the sound effects, a lot of them come from like open source packs or paid packs, and then I edit them myself in Audacity. Some of the sounds came from Family Tracker, which I showed earlier, like the rolling sound. It's very... Imagine getting burnt out with working. I mean, yeah, like there's some truth to that. I get burnt out on thinking. So there are days where like I'm thinking really hard about how should I organize this level? How should I code this? What's the organization of my code? How should I reformat this? And I'll spend hours just thinking. And you know, when you're thinking for hours straight, it is exhausting. And there are times where it's like, I need to take a break from thinking and go for a run. I'll go for a walk, a mile-long walk, and that's my break because I'm thinking so hard. It's so exhausting. I'm too new to fully understand and actually fix it. Is there like a YouTube video related to this problem? No, probably not. That's a complex thing. Are you talking about the thing I was painting a second ago? Yeah, what I would recommend in order to solve this problem is to learn how vectors work. So if you're using Love2D, I use hump.vector, but every game framework is going to have some kind of vector class. And the way I would solve this issue is by utilizing vectors, because that's how I solve it in my game. There are rotated translations that I have to work with in my game as well. And I always utilize vectors in order to do that. For example, the way that you could fix this problem is actually not that difficult, because if you have a vector for the player's rotation, and then you have a vector for where the position is, you can literally rotate them 1 to 1. So actually, here, I'll redraw this. Is this my first stream? No, I stream all the time. I'll just make the canvas bigger. Okay, so let's draw this again. Rather than translating your torch or whatever it is that you're working on, you should instead use a vector. So if this is the player's position, this dot right here, use a vector to place it at the correct position. All that means is that if like the offset is -5, -8, then this vector is just literally a representation of this coordinate. So now that you have this vector, you can now apply the exact same rotation that the player has. So if this vector represents the player's rotation, this vector just has to match the exact same rotation as this one. So if the player ever falls over like he did earlier, and then the green vector looks like this now, since it's this blue vector is kind of like tied to the green one. So you don't have to worry about like this L shape or the translation. You're just worrying about two vectors and making sure their rotation values are in tandem. And when you do that, the ordered pair offset values that you get and apply to the torch, it'll always match the point of this vector. So that is how I would implement this. Leonardo da Vinci right there. Oh, I know. I'm putting him to shame, if I'm being honest. Cute drawing. Thank you. Probably the first stream of mine that won the algorithm gambling game. Maybe. How many viewers do I have? I guess that's a problem. I normally I read chat constantly, but I haven't really been paying attention to like how many viewers I'm getting. It actually doesn't even say. Dude, one bad thing about YouTube is that the YouTube like client that hosts the stream, it freezes constantly and it gives me outdated information and it's just straight up bad. It really is bad. 114, that's pretty good. Pretty much the same as usual, yeah. So normally it gets around 100, maybe a little bit less, but 110 is pretty good. I'm happy with that. But we got about 5 more minutes left of stream. Maybe like 10 more minutes since I was a few minutes late. But I like drawing these little sketches. One thing I do want to do is, am I able to change it so it has desktop background? No, thank you. One thing I was gonna do is make it so that the canvas is always black. So the thing about paint is that the canvas starts white, and I really don't like a bright white canvas because it's so bright and the rest of my stream is really dark. Like if I'm on here and I just suddenly switch over to a big white screen, I hate that. I hate that. So I think I'm gonna start using a dark black canvas, and instead I'll draw my character like this. When does the stream start? The stream starts at 10 a.m. CT, so it starts 2 hours ago. Dark mode for life. Yeah, basically. I try to do dark mode on everything because I have my eyes fixated on screens constantly. And actually, you can kind of see it in my glasses. I have like the blue light deflecting lenses, so my lenses look a little bit yellow. So the bright lights on the screen, I really try to reduce that as much as I can. And so I'm going to try and use a black canvas next time. So bad. Okay, we're done. We're done with paint. We're done with paint. Gray all the way. Gray is the way. Make Roblox a gambling game. When, not if. If there's a Roblox gambling game, I could see that causing a few issues in the Roblox scene, considering that there are young people in that scene. Okay, I think I'm gonna start wrapping up. I'll probably end stream in just a couple minutes if there's any final things that people want to ask about. Unless I don't, whatever, it's fine. There are like 1 million of them. I mean, I guess as long as it's not gambling with real money, I think that's the only problem that people are having with gambling games. Like, I don't think anyone actually cares that like the early Pokemon games had a game corner that you could go and gamble with tokens. Is that big of a deal? I think people care more about how you can spend money on games to get certain items, and there's RNG involved with it. So like it's real world money being gambled for potentially real world money. Like the CS:GO skins is a really big one where since you're able to buy skins, you're able to buy loot boxes that contain skins, and you're also able to sell those skins for money. That leads to like this whole market of gambling. It's really crazy. There's Luigi's Casino in the Mario DS games. Yeah, totally. I would say that those barely count as gambling because you don't actually bet. Or do you? I don't think that you make bets in those mini games. It's just like poker, but you either win or lose. I don't remember there being betting. Maybe there is betting. I guess I can't remember. It was supposed to have slots and they removed it in the international release. Oh, yeah, it doesn't have slots, does it? It has like some like board. It has like this board mini game, doesn't it? Yeah, I watched I watched a YouTube video recently about the censorship in the Pokemon casinos. I mean, like Balatro, but Peggy is still fighting about. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, Balatro got hit with that recently, where Balatro was considered like a gambling game, but obviously Balatro doesn't have any gambling at all. You don't make bets with any money. It's just using poker rules to play a card game. Implying that Balatro has any sort of gambling and is a negative influence, that's ridiculous. There are plenty of other games that have actual gambling that are problems. I started watching videos about game developing, and I'm curious about my advice. Should I start with the tool that I will end up using, or start with something easier? The truth is, you don't know what you'll end up using. I hear you say that you're going to make games with Unreal, but this is my advice. You should start with Unreal. If you want to use Unreal and you want to make Unreal Engine games, you should download Unreal Engine and start using it because it is free. You can download and use it right now. My advice is to start immediately. But my advice is also to try out a variety of different ones. I know it sounds like your heart is set on Unreal Engine, but once you start making games, and simple games by the way, if you're just starting out, you should start with very simple, easy to ease yourself into it. I think that you'll find that some engines are more appealing to you than others. I tried out every engine, and Love2D is the one that I liked the most. On paper, it's probably not the best one to use, it's probably not the most feature-rich, but it is the one that I enjoyed using the most. And it's possible that you'll start using Unreal Engine and it'll turn out that you won't like it. Maybe it turns out that it's too slow or it's too bogged down with stuff. It's too bloated. Maybe it doesn't run well on your computer, or there's some quirks. You don't like C++ or blueprints don't make sense. There's a bazillion reasons why you might not like something. But it would be a huge mistake to force yourself to continue using it if you genuinely don't like the process. You should try it. You should try out Unity, you should try out Godot, you should try out GameMaker, you should try out Love2D, you should try out all of them, because they're all free, by the way. There's no excuse. You should download all of them and try it. And if you like it, make more games with it. I would say make Pong in every engine. That's my actual advice. Make Pong in every engine, and after you do that, you'll get a really good feel of what is good and what's not good about each one, which ones, like what quirks there are and what things you're going to have to deal with. And go from there, because you can do all the research you want, but research won't help you. You have to just do it. Am I an LLC? Yeah, it's Chalicade LLC. I doubt 2D could ever possibly battle deck my computer. No, probably not. But if you're running on an engine, like Unreal Engine is very large. I use Unreal Engine 5, but only because I can only code in blueprints. I think that's okay, but if you're able to use blueprints, blueprints are really similar to Game Maker. So if you wanted to make a 2D game, you could switch over to Game Maker, and Game Maker's drag and drop coding style will feel very familiar to you compared to blueprints. And similarly, like Unity has Playmaker. They probably have something better. But at the time when I was using Unity, there was something called Playmaker that was really similar to blueprints, where it was like a drag and drop coding solution. And if you want to stick with that, that's totally fine. Especially if you're like an artist and you want to stick with simple games. But the truth is, like, most games require coding. If you want to make games, you should learn how to do some actual coding. Game Maker's fine, blueprints are fine, you can make full games with those, but I wouldn't bottleneck yourself just because of that aspect. There's a lot of good engines out there, and I really would recommend trying them all. I'll give it a go. Tried learning text-based coding a dozen times. It is hard. Text-based coding is hard. Always try easing yourself into it, and always try starting with an easy game. If someone tried to start by making like a Zelda clone as their first game, they would fail. I'm so confident about that, especially with a text-based engine. Because a Zelda-like game like this, there's so many complex issues that are too hard to pick up on when you're starting out. And it's always disappointing for me to give that advice, because people want to make their favorite games. They want to make good games. People don't want to make Pong. They don't want to make Space Invaders. But it is the first step. It's like if you were learning to play a new instrument, you would practice your scales first. Yeah, think of this as like you're trying to choose what instrument you want to play. Like right now, you have your heart set on playing the trumpet, but maybe once you actually buy a trumpet and play it, you won't like it, and you'll prefer playing piano instead. I much prefer piano over trumpet, even though trumpet sounds really cool. Like the song we're listening to right now has really cool brass and cool trumpets in it, but I don't know. It's just the way it is. How do I escape tutorial hell? The trick to escaping tutorial hell is to not rely on tutorials. You should use tutorials to ease yourself into it and get yourself like acquainted with the fundamentals. But the only way to learn game development is to make games, and not by following tutorials. Actually taking off the training wheels and making games. They are going to be bad games. That's why I keep saying Pong. Make Pong. When you try to make Pong, you're going to run into a whole bunch of issues on like, how the heck do I do this? I don't even know what I'm doing. And overcoming that problem is how you learn. That's the only way to do it. That's the only way to escape tutorial hell, is to like overcome those challenges and to challenge yourself. If you get reliant on tutorials, you're always going to have to find a tutorial that tells you how to do things, and you're not I need to slow down. You're not actually going to learn anything if you do it that way. Yo, Earthbound? Yeah, I really need to get the music bot working again. By the way, I set up Nightbot because I was trying to find an alternative to Mixitup, because Mixitup has not been working with the music bot. But Nightbot's like music system, I don't think it's going to work out. It's more integrated with SoundCloud and YouTube, and I need something that's more integrated with MP3s. And Mixitup is pretty good with that, but for people who don't know, I have this bot that would tell you what song is playing in the chat. But recently, it just hasn't been working. So I have my music player, and it's supposed to allow you to sign in, but it just has not been signing me in. It has not been working. And just before stream, I updated it, and things seem like it should be working fine, but it's just not. So I need to give it another shot. I might need to actually stop into the Mix It Up Discord channel or something like that to figure out what's going on. Try to find a series which goes over the basics, like create one with Unity and make your own game in the program. I mean, yeah, in general, it's the best idea. If you saw my message, but you could draw a spiral inside the log emitting a bit of light, and when the player enters, the light increases. Yeah, so something like that is what I plan to do. Cause yeah, what I have here, let me chop it down again real quick, and then I'll probably be done with the stream. So first of all, the way the tree just disappears is horrible. But like you said, I think that I need to make it more inviting. Right now, it's just like a black hole. It's hard to even tell that anything's special about the stump. So yeah, some like emitting some light is a really good idea, or some kind of effect. If you want some retro sound for your OST, the Earthbound sound font is goated. Yeah, so I haven't been using sound fonts from specific games. I'm worried about anything like that. I played around with Bevy's pretty good engine. Yeah, I've heard good things. I think, if I'm thinking of the right one, I think. I remember following my top view shooter tutorial. After ending the lessons, I made different kinds of bullets, like chain reaction and piercing. The best thing to learn is do not watch. Completely agree. What you described is awesome, by the way. And I hope other people are doing that with the course too, where you build the game and then you build more onto the game. That's a pretty good solution. I think that idea is great, actually. I'm going to rephrase my answer. Whoever asked how to get out of tutorial hell, follow a tutorial, and then at the end of that tutorial, add more content. Do something else. If it's a tutorial on how to make a character walk around, try to make him run. Try to add obstacles. If it's a tutorial on like 3D modeling, then 3D model something extra on top of it. Do something extra on top of what the tutorial is teaching you. Because when you sit in a classroom and listen to what a teacher says, you're not going to learn anything. It's only when you do the homework and you like do the practice problems and you like challenge yourself that you actually learn it. You have to, you can't just like watch videos. It doesn't work, unfortunately. You're so right about tutorials. I spent like half a year making a game using way too many tutorials that didn't necessarily work well together. Ended up having to code everything again from scratch. Yeah, I mean, yeah, totally. So the thing about tutorials is that they're really tempting, because when you have a problem, it's really tempting just to say, someone else solved this problem already. I'm going to go just use their solution. The problem is when you use someone's solution, one, it's not tailored to your code base, and two, you don't learn from that experience. My goal for anyone watching this is, if you're going to spend time making games, make sure that you are learning along the way. That's the whole goal. If you get to the end of a game project and you haven't really learned anything, I would say that the whole thing was a waste. But if you make it to the end of a game project, even if the game kind of sucks, as long as you feel like you've gotten better at development, you've learned a thing or two, you feel a bit more confident going into the next one, that's the main thing, because like we're playing the long-term game here. No one's going to be able to make a good game in their first like 6 months or the first year. It takes many years of practice, especially if you're building up all of these skills individually. If you're already good at coding, maybe you can pick up art and then make a good game within a year or two. But if you don't know coding, you don't know art, you don't know design, you're new to all of these aspects, you need to accept that this is going to take years and years. Like, it takes years to get good at art, it takes years to get good at coding, and it takes years to get good at design. And you can practice all of these things at once while you're making your practice projects, your own games. But these are not going to be like, it's not going to be the next Hollow Knight. The next Hollow Knight is not going to be made by someone working on their first game in 2 years. It's going to take a long time. I've been working on this game for 4 years. So to put that in perspective, this game seems simple, but yet it took me, someone who's very experienced with game development, so long to get here, and it's still hardly moving at all. It really is rough. I'd actually just ask AI and then ask what each part does. Only when you understand what each part does can you copy it. No, sorry. I still don't think that's good enough, because you are still being given the solution. When someone gives you the solution, even if they explain the solution to you, that's not going to teach you hardly anything. It might give you some context. It helps with easing yourself into the process. But the only way to actually learn is to overcome those problems yourself. If you run into a coding problem, you need to figure it out. You need to figure out what makes it work, what's making it not work. And you can use AI to help with like debugging, I guess, but when the AI gives you a solution, it gives you code, you are not learning. Even if you ask it, what does this code do? I'm sorry, you did not write that code, and you are not going to learn nearly as much if someone else is telling you about these things. You have to do it yourself. AI is terrible for pixel art. Yeah, at the moment, I have not been very impressed. It probably will improve in the next like 5 or 10 years, because AI art has gotten a lot better in the past 5 years. But at the same time, it's, you know, kind of iffy. I think you can only understand what each part does by implementing it yourself. To an extent, yes. There's always a balance, because when you use AI, you will reach a final product faster than if you don't use AI. But the trade-off is you are not learning as much. My advice is to focus on learning. AI probably is hindering your learning, giving you answers. Pre-recorded? Do you think my stream is pre-recorded? Why? I don't know why you would think that. The chat's showing up in real time, isn't it? I mean, it taught me about lerps for a movement system, and then I use a similar system myself for jumping. Look, AI is definitely something you can learn from AI. I'm not saying that you can't learn from AI, but you can't learn to code by using AI is what I'm saying. In general, the only way that you can learn anything is by challenging yourself and then overcoming the challenge. If you're learning an instrument, it is challenging at first to play your scales. It is challenging to play a song. Overcoming that challenge is how you learn to play the instrument. That is the only way. And when you don't know how to code, sure, you can ask AI to give you answers. You can go on Stack Overflow to copy and paste code out, and it can give you context for what good code looks like. But until you write that code yourself, you ain't learning very much. You're learning how to use AI to create things, but you're not learning to code. You're learning how to look up the answers to problems on Google, which is a good skill, but you're not learning to code. The only way to learn to code is to challenge yourself and overcome those challenges on your own. But I thought coding is mostly copy and paste. Not exactly. I see what you mean. What you're saying is that most problems have been solved, and you can use someone else's code to solve your problems already. And to an extent, that is true. But who wrote the code that you're copying? Who wrote that code? Did they copy it from someone else? Who wrote the original version? Like, we're not all copying from each other. There is plenty of code in my game that is copied. I'm using a bunch of libraries, but a lot of the code is written by me. And there's no way I could have written this code if I was just reliant on AI the whole time. Or maybe I could have. Maybe we are entering a new age where AI is the new programmer, and there are not going to be people that know how to program anymore. There's just going to be people that know how to use AI to create software. It's possible that's the future we're heading towards. But if your goal is to learn to be a programmer, AI is not going to help you. It might help you with like answering your questions. Like if you're like, in Lua, can I use an empty string as a key in a table? You can ask AI, like I do that a lot. That's fine. But if you say, ChatGPT, can you write a function that does X, Y, and Z? You will not learn anything from that. You can read through its solution, and you might be able to glean some information from that, but you will not become more skilled by generating that code. The only thing you'll be more skilled at is you will be more skilled at prompting AI, which is a skill in itself. That's why I say that maybe we are heading in the direction where there are no programmers anymore. Maybe we are heading in the direction where everything is coded by a computer, and the computer is controlled by someone who's not a programmer. It's just someone who knows how to prompt a computer to make good AI-generated code. Maybe, I'm not sure. I used AI and it was wrong many times. If you rely on AI right now, you won't make a game. Yeah, and that is definitely true today, where at the moment, AI is not quite reliable enough to actually be successful with it. To an extent, it can be. But the reason I don't fixate too much on that point is because in 10 years, things are going to be very different. Even 5 years ago, AI was very different than it is today. And I think that in 5 more years, 10 years, 30 years, however long it takes, it really is going to be a different landscape. So like the argument of AI is not good enough, that's only a valid argument for now. It won't be a valid argument for a few more years. Like maybe in 5 years, like earlier we were talking about pixel art. Yeah, right now pixel art, I'm not very impressed by AI pixel art, but I don't know if it's always going to be like that. Maybe in 10 years, AI pixel art will be better than anything that any human can create. I feel like AI is just like a calculator as a tool to help you focus more on important stuff. I completely agree. I use AI to do mundane tasks. I use AI to complete tasks that are not fun and that I would not get any from doing. So if there's a task that you could potentially learn from, but you choose to use AI instead, you are robbing yourself from a learning opportunity. But if you are using AI to generate a bunch of stuff that's just boilerplate, crappy, simple, mundane, not interesting code that doesn't teach you anything, you're not learning anything from that process, that's the perfect thing that AI is used for. AI is perfect for mundane, boring things that humans don't want to deal with. And I feel the same way with art. AI art is very controversial right now because a lot of people think about like AI art in terms of like, oh, they're creating like a portrait that they're going to hang on the wall. I don't think people are generating AI artwork and then hanging it on their wall. I think AI artwork will be useful for like shading or adding detail or checking for mistakes or providing like line art or choosing a color palette or building the baseline, just the rough sketches. It can give you help with brainstorming. AI art is good for those mundane, unfun aspects of the art creation process, but I don't think it's very useful for the actual nitty-gritty creating good-looking artwork. I mean, it is. It can be. It can make good artwork too. But I think the true value comes from the mundane, because if a human is able to do something phenomenal, I think AI is good for placeholders. Sure, yeah, totally. You'd be surprised. Some people really consider their art, their art. For me, it's just AI images. I don't would stop calling it art. Not gonna lie. I mean, if people are really out there generating AI art and then bragging about it, that's obvious. That's obviously dumb. It is art though. Like if I generate an image, this is the other thing, by the way, with AI art, more like AI prompters. This is the hardest part about AI and AI art, is that someday computers and AI is going to get so good with AI generated artwork that it's going to be impossible to tell the difference between computer generated content and human generated content. So once we reach that point where it's impossible to tell, what's going to happen? It's like, if we can't tell anymore, is beauty really in the eye of the beholder? If you can't tell if it was made by human hands or computers' hands, it's very existential. It's the same with AI generated videos. We're already at the point where it's impossible to tell if a video is AI generated or not. That's scary, isn't it? I see videos all the time, and then I only realize afterwards that it was fake. It's already happening for some people. It's already happening for me. It's already happening for me. I go on Twitter and I see like war footage and it's not real. That's crazy. It's like there's this fake human stuff going around, and it's impossible to tell if it's real or not. But then that raises the question, if it's indistinguishable from something that is real, doesn't that make it real? Like if an AI generates an artwork that is literally the exact same as what a human could create, what actually is real anymore? If an AI video is able to generate a video of something happening and it looks real, like, I don't know. It does make it real, I think. In a way, it does. This is what I mean. Think about YouTube videos, how lots of YouTube videos have like B-side footage where like you're watching a YouTube video and it cuts to a scene of like a car driving down a road. There are so many AI videos right now of cars driving down the road, and they look picture perfect. It is literally impossible to tell if the car that's driving down the road in this video is actually a real car or if it's an AI generated video of a car. So since it's not distinguishable, is there a difference? At the end of the day, it's just zeros and ones on my computer screen that's displaying images. And if the images being displayed are indistinguishable from human-created images versus AI-generated images, what even is real and what even is not real? Ooh, how spooky. How spooky is that? A piece of art is a snapshot of a person. It's their skill at this point in their life. It's like a fingerprint. That is a very holistic and positive way of viewing artwork. I unfortunately think a lot of people see it more literally, where it's not as... It literally is just pixels. Like, a AI-generated image is literally pixels on a screen in a finite order. I don't know. My brain is fried from this conversation. Me too. In fact, I went like a half an hour over because I got looped into talking about AI. So AI is like my favorite topic, but it's also a scary topic. I love talking about it. It's one of my favorites. I'm always down to chat about AI, but at the same time, it's I understand there's lots of concerns with it. It's controversial, and I am very empathetic to people who are in situations where AI is causing them negative harm. Artists are suffering because AI is stealing their stuff. People are losing their jobs because automation is taking over. Those are actual problems, and I don't really know what the solution is to those problems. All I can do is learn what is current with AI and learn what I can like do to navigate this new world that we live in. We live in a very weird new world right now where it's hard to know what's real. I did not join the stream to develop an existential crisis about AI. Well, too bad. Yeah, that's why I keep it at the end of the stream. That's for me what separates art from just images. The intention from the creator. Well, isn't there intention when I prompt an AI too? When someone prompts an AI with an intention to create an image, isn't that prompt the human input? Because I agree with you. I would not want to hang artwork on my wall if it wasn't made by human hands. But I'm trying to like really break this down into an objective sense. There is human interaction with AI art. You have to prompt it, and the skill is like learning what to prompt in order to get what you want out of the AI. What music is this? Oh, this is from Xenoblade Chronicles. This is from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Gourmet. You have to use AI if you code to some degree or another. I wouldn't say you have to, but and in fact, if you're starting out or learning, I would say please don't use AI. It'll be good for you to like take the training wheels off. But I do use AI for coding. It's helpful, and there are parts that I like about it. AI art feels like being a commissioner versus being the actual artist. It definitely does. I agree with that statement. You're still asking someone else to actually make the art? Yeah, totally. When I generate art, I'm not making anything. I'm just asking something else. I'm asking a program to make it. Anyone who has done coding professionally knows that just because you reviewed the code before it was merged doesn't mean you know how to fix that code when the prod breaks. You're totally right. Super random, but how did you get hired on at Microsoft? I think that I got lucky a little bit because I applied in 2018, and I applied just through their website. I was just browsing their website for job listings, and I found one that kind of matched what I was into, and I applied just through the website, no referral or anything. And I got lucky that they put my resume in front of someone, and I got my interview, and I actually had to interview 2 different times. I got rejected the first time. The very first time I interviewed at Microsoft, I got rejected. And then a year later, I went back and did it again. And then I got hired. It takes a lot. Should the fire camp go away in the rain? Maybe. But actually, I'm not planning to keep the rain in this area. I'm just keeping it for like a little effect. How do I stop feature creep and actually start making progress? Oh man, if you could tell me. I need to know. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm in that phase now, actually, where I'm just making cuts. Kind of like how I was saying that all of these maps are new maps. They're basically the new version of all the old maps, and that's based around me cutting content. Because when I keep implementing new ideas, the scope gets bigger and bigger and bigger like crazy. It's nuts, and there's no good way other than just to really cut it off at a certain point and think, is this truly necessary? Does this make the game actually better, or is it just going to make the game take longer to get through? I like to use AI when I'm too lazy to do something, but I know how to do it. I'd say that's a good policy to have. And I'd say I do the same thing. I normally write my own functions, but if it's something like, if I know that AI could generate it in a good way, then normally I do that in order to save myself the step. But on that note, I really am going to call it quits. tired and ready to take a little bit of a break. But thank you all so much for being here for yet another Moonshire Monday. I'm so happy to have so many people in chat today. Lots of returning folks. We got Savage, Card, Axe Ivy, Adele, Wolf, and Mir Nick, and Fairplay. We're making game dev courses. I have 2 on Udemy. You can look up Kyle's shop on Udemy. But I will be back next week for yet another Moonshire Monday. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you all then. Bye, everyone.